Hey, my name is Marco. I'm a former pro opera singer turned voice actor, and today we're going to be listening to Tantal from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This is a Patreon request, and I was told that this is an overworld theme. I have not listened to it, so I'm really intrigued. You know, overworld themes I think are really important because they set a mood and a vibe for us as a gamer and as a person playing the video game to experience, what it feels like to be in a region. I mean, that's where you spend the most amount of time as a gamer. So overworld themes need to be good. They need to be enjoyable to listen to, usually on repeat. I think it's a tricky balance because how do you create an emotional landscape for someone while traversing a landscape in a video game? So it's always an intriguing conversation. So I'm curious to hear what this sounds like. Here we go. This is really interesting to me, and I'm kind of curious if it's not some sort of like cityscape rather than like an open fielded area. I'm also interested in the fact that when we start, we have these diminished crunching chords as we descend, and then we move into so there's a lot of forward momentum considering it's an overworld theme. I don't think we're in some kind of green pasture that's very peaceful with the sun on us. There's a lot of this forward momentum that makes me feel like it's a bustling place. It's a place that's very busy. And so that's intriguing. It's causing the emotion I feel is one of busyness and of uncertainty, a little bit of mystery and intrigue. So I mean, do you hear that? Ba-da-da-dum, bum, 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 ba-da-da. I mean, it's interesting. It really feels like this is a place where things are happening. There's an occurrence going on. There's lots of people moving around. Unless, of course, it would be hilarious if this wasn't an overworld theme. But that's where my brain is right now, so I'm just going to lock in on that. So Do you hear that instrumentation too? We have this quiet section. I have a few thoughts. On the one hand, it feels like this could actually be even a battle theme in a way because of the way that it's moving forward. It sounds like Dire Straits. There's a lot of things that are happening in this music, but then I love that this section we have this sort of dialed back version with the piano cascading around, and we have got the harp, and then the voices are actually muted and dialed back. And if it is an overworld theme, it could be like the theme that plays when you're inside a cave or something where things are a little bit quieter, or there's like some river or something, or I don't know. It's all very curious, like why these choices are made. Again, usually with music, we can't always be one note. We can't always sound the same throughout because that's very overwhelming for the ear and can get very boring. And in the context of an overworld theme, if I was a composer, I would make sure to do everything in my power to not make it so redundant that the player tunes out, or worse, turns off the music. You know, I think there's such a delicate thing here with composers because you want an overworld theme to express the feeling of what it is like to be in a place. But on the flip side, you don't want to overhammer that home or make it boring. So there's a balance between like really delivering an emotional state for the player, but then also not being so big that it's overwhelming, and then also not being so underwhelming that it's boring. And that's, I think, like such a delicate balance to find for a composer. It's a very interesting piece in that it's not one thing repeated over and over and over and over and over. It's got a lot of variety for an overworld theme, if indeed it is an overworld theme, because I can also hear it as a battle theme with some moving parts and some desperation and some worry that we may not be able to complete the mission. And so there is a bit of this ebb and flow here that's kind of cool. You know, I find that part with the piano, again, it's very cavernous. There's this very, like, subtle, after we've got this da-da-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, to have this, again, that variation on the rhythm and the tone just be da-da-da-da-da-da. It's just got this, like, really, really, like, pensive music there. You know, I'm pretty sure that the singers here are generated. They're not actual humans, but just from a technical standpoint, that requires so much air support and breath and it's all coming from the chords and the breath. You really can't, if you manipulate that too much, you'll feel this tightness in your neck, which again, sometimes we talk about this idea of having a lowered larynx. It's all coming from the diaphragm. There's a lot of buoyancy that comes when we sing like this, but it's very interesting to hear you're essentially puffing air versus which I feel that much more in the back of my head and the top part of my head right here. Versus this faster rhythm, which I feel very much right at the chords, where the chords come together. And so it's kind of fun to hear this rhythm sung and then also compare it to what it sounds like in a legato style. I also think if you listen closely, there's so many moving parts in here. We got the strings, we got this, at one point, the lower strings, and all the while you also have this dubstep. Again, I'm consistently thinking that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles in general has this like sort of forward momentum in terms of orchestration and in terms of constant combination of nature versus mechanical or biological versus of man-made, manufactured. And you hear that with the use of the harp and the piano and the vocals, but then you also have this boom, this like synthesized human-made sort of sound and beat. And I think that juxtaposition is so interesting. I'm really curious to see what Tantal looks like if it is indeed an overworld map or an overworld place, because there's very much a sense of forward momentum, and it feels very industrial, and it feels very like cityscape versus naturescape. There is very much this feeling of man-made, and yeah, so I'm kind of intrigued. As always, these pieces are absolutely beautiful in Xenoblade, so I'm always grateful to hear more of it. And as always, thank you so much, and I will talk to you later. Bye.